I'm sorry, for a book called Aristotle and Dante, there was a whole lot of Aristotle and not a lot of Dante in this. But like I was saying before, a car so rudely stopped next to me at a stoplight. I'm almost bored with TJ Klune, and that just doesn't sound like me. It's about to be so stormy out. I have a video I've been putting off all day long, and I forgot to film this intro a couple of weeks ago. So, hello, my name is Paige, welcome to my channel. I figured now is the best time to sit down and introduce you to this vlog. I am trying my best to start to do more themed vlogs, or vlogs with a purpose, instead of just what I'm reading this week and the like 1 or 2 things I might remember to film throughout the week. In this vlog, I really wanted to get through a lot of the series that I have not completed on my TBR shelf. I am trying my best to get my TBR shelf to be not quite as many books, and there are some on there that I know that I'm probably not interested in reading anymore, but I still want to get through them because I've purchased them. I just want to read them and move on, or at least try them and see if I want to DNF them and then move on. So as a way to get through my TBR, I decided I'm going to catch up on as many series as I can, and I just thought I would tell you what some of the options were and what I ended up going with before you watch all of the clips and my thoughts on those videos, or the word is books that I was looking for, all of those books that I read in this. So these were just some of the options of incomplete series I have on my shelves. If you have not already seen my videos where I read all of the A Court of Thorns and Roses first 3 books, I have them linked up here, maybe if I can remember in editing, but I read the first 3 as well as the novella, which is A Court of Frost and Starlight, and then I just stopped, and I was loving them. I was having such a good time, but this chunker of a book has been sitting on my shelf ever since, and I decided that this would be a really good contender in this because it's huge and I can just get it out of the way. Another option was to finish off the Nevermore and Wonder Smith's 3rd book, which is called Hollowpox. This is in the Tales of Morgan Crow, Trials of Morgan Crow series. It's a middle grade series that I believe has been compared to Harry Potter, where there's this young girl who is kind of in like a neglectful family situation, and somebody from this magic world comes into hers and is like, hey, I'm gonna take you to where I live and you're gonna go to a magical school. That's all I remember about it. So this became one of my options to complete, and like everybody else when it came out, I picked up Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World, which is the 2nd book to the Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe book. This is like a contemporary young adult romance about 2 boys who, do I know how to talk about books? I think so. Who are friends in like high school, and it's like them in the 80s, kind of accepting who they are and their sexual identities. Is that a good way to explain this? It's contemporary, it's young adult, it's gay, it's set in the 80s. The book 2 became another one of these options for this video. I'm doing so bad at introducing these books, I'm so sorry. Another contender is Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. I have the other 2 books up on my shelf right now and I don't want to take them down, but The Hate U Give and On the Come Up are kind of set in the same world. They are not necessarily sequels to each other, but this is a prequel to The Hate U Give, and it follows the main character of that book's father and his journey. So it's not technically a series, but it is part of that same world. Darius the Great Deserves Better is the sequel to Darius the Great Is Not Okay, which I read and loved a couple of months ago, last year. I'm uncertain. I think I read it in a vlog. If I did, I will link that here. But it was so good, and I want to get to this so badly, and I don't know what's holding me back. So if I don't read it in this vlog, I'm definitely going to be reading it very, very soon. Again, the 1st book to the series is over on my shelf and I'm not gonna get it, but here's the 2nd in the series. So this is the sequel to Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, and I read this one last year or the year before, and it was okay, but there was the 3rd book that came out right around the time that I had found this one and read it, and it's The Nobleman's Guide to Scandal and Shipwrecks. It's by MacKenzi Lee, which we don't love her, but it's been on my shelf and I don't want to throw this away because I did spend money on it, and I have such a hard time throwing away books that I spent money on. So I want to finish this series out and then just move on from it, but she is a problem, and I do acknowledge that. I forgot to grab American Royals, but I do have Majesty by Catherine McGee. This is kind of like a alternate universe United States where instead of having a president, we ended up having a monarchy, and I don't remember much about book one anymore. I don't remember any of their names. I know there was like a bodyguard romance in it and a girl who was very, very evil, and that's all I remember. I cannot find the audiobook for this pretty much anywhere except for Audible, and I don't want to pay for it. This is another option. I could have prepared for this a little bit more, but there's another book that's in this shelf, which is the 5th season, and I have not read The Obelisk Gate or The Stone Sky by N.K. Jemisin. But if I'm trying to catch up on series, I might as well not just read one, but read both of them, right? And our final option is Crisp and Sear by T.J. Klune, and we know I am basically a T.J. Klune fan account at this point, but I have not finished this duology, and I have a friend who I was reading the first book with around the same time, and she loved it. Loved the first book, and I thought it was okay, and then she read this one and didn't love it quite so much, which makes me not quite as excited to read this one. I kind of forgot a lot of what happened in book one as well. It wasn't my favorite. I'm just gonna tell you right now, it doesn't end up in this video. Oh wait, that wasn't a final option. We also have How to Be a Movie Star by T.J. Klune, which is the sequel to How to Be a Normal Person. I picked up book 2 right when I bought this one. I had planned to read them both back to back, but I never did because I kind of read like 20 or so T.J. Klune books to make this video, and I got a little burnt out with T.J. Klune, not gonna lie. So this is another contender. But because I've already filmed this video, I'm just gonna let you know what you will be seeing in this. You will be seeing Aristotle and Dante dive into the waters of the world, also The Nobleman's Guide to Scandal and Shipwrecks, both The Obelisk Gate and The Stone Sky, How to Be a Movie Star, and A Court of Silver Flames. So if you're interested in seeing my thoughts on all of those books, just keep on watching. Okay, good morning. I am probably going to be reading The Obelisk Gate today and tomorrow because it's like a 14-hour audiobook, and that usually takes me 2 days to finish while I'm at work. So that is what I'm going to be reading, and I don't know if I remember very much from the series. I know that I remember some plot lines, I remember like the deaths that happened, and overall I remember the world, but I don't remember the characters' names. I don't remember what was really the purpose of the first book, like what they were going towards and what's leading into the second book. I just remember who died and being absolutely gutted by that, and I remember giving it 5 stars. So I know I really enjoyed it, but other than that I don't remember so much. So we're gonna see how this goes. I'm gonna update you every day, I think, when I finish, when I get in the car after work. So you're gonna see me in my car a lot, and yeah, I need to drive to work now and get this off my window because it's kind of blocking my view. So I am now actively driving home, and I am going to probably not look at the camera because that's not safe, you know? But I did get to about the 8-hour mark in Obelisk Gate, and I definitely forgot so much about what was happening in the book from book 1. I forgot the characters' names, I forgot what the purpose of it was, I totally forgot that at the beginning of book 1, the main character's child is murdered. Like, this is chapter 1. He's murdered by his father, and so she is on like a hunt to go rescue her daughter, who her husband had like kidnapped, I guess. I mean, is it kidnapping if it's your own child? But like I was saying before, a car so rudely stopped next to me at a stoplight was that I just forgot everything that had happened in that first book, besides like the major events that went on. It took me about 3 to 5 chapters to really understand what the heck was going on. Like the terms I'm still struggling with a little bit. I don't fully understand what the different jobs are, what the different terms are, but I'm still really liking it. I just forgot how emotional this book is, how just heavy and dark it is, and it just feels like grieving. I don't know how else to explain it, but like that feeling you get when something so terrible has happened and the main character is just grieving. I mean, she's lost her child, and so you just feel that heaviness the entire time. So I really enjoyed that. I remember why I liked the first book so much. I definitely was tearing up during work and was trying not to cry at some parts just because it would remind me back to what happened in book 1 and just how hard I cried during book 1. So I am really enjoying it. I feel like this probably will be 4 to 5 stars again because of how good it is. but we will see. I think I have about 5 hours left in the audiobook, and so I will definitely be finishing it tomorrow during work, and then I will probably jump right into the Stone Sky just so I can wrap up this series and know how everything ends. I think it's only 3 books. I don't think there's anything after that, or will be anything after that, but it's intense. It's a really heavy-hitting one, and I'm getting a lot of Mistborn vibes. Like I read the 5th season before I read Mistborn, but now that I'm back into this world, it does remind me a lot of it in some aspects. Just like the world building overall, and a lot of the characters, and just the darkness. And I like when characters are not always bubble wrapped, especially in like an adult fantasy book where the main characters, you know that they could die at any given chance, and that's really, really nice to me. So I am enjoying it. I will let you know tomorrow how I feel when I finish book 1 and maybe when I finish book 2 and start book 3. Okay, so I've been home for a while. I forgot to set up my camera on the tripod in my car, or the mount in my car, and I started driving and realized I can't do that one-handed while driving in traffic. So I came home, thought I was going to immediately update, and then sat on the couch for a very long time. So it's been a few hours. I finished the Obelisk Gate around lunchtime today, and it was really good. I think I said in the last clip that I was emotional throughout it. Like I forgot how heavy and just grief-like the first book was, and the same tone and that just darkness that's in the first book carries over into the second book. And if you don't already know, in book 1, one of the point of views that we get is written in second person, so it's a lot of you feel this way, you do this, you make this choice. And it continues into book 2, which I just really like because the main character is grieving so much for the loss of her child, the kidnapping of her other child, and the disassociation of herself from the character that we're reading. It's so interesting to read that because it just feels so heavy. And if you've ever been in a really sad mindset, like the you that you are at that moment is not the you that's in your thoughts. I don't know. It's really impactful to read that point of view, and I really enjoyed that carrying on into book 2, and I hope it carries on into book 3, and that maybe by the end of it she will no longer be in a second person point of view. I don't know, I like the writing style. It's so cool. But I did end up crying in work. Like I had to stop working for a good 5 minutes and take a break because I was crying so bad. It was so embarrassing. Nobody saw me. None of my coworkers like looked over or heard me or anything, because I'm a very good silent crier. So I don't think I tipped anybody off, and I like waited until my eyes were not red and puffy before I talked to anybody. But it was emotional. It was really good. I feel like, because this is a me problem, but because I didn't remember all of the details from the first one and I was playing catch up a lot, and because I wasn't reading along with it too and couldn't appreciate every single detail, like this wasn't personally a 5-star read. I feel like if I reread it, it probably would be. So I'm gonna give it like 4.5 stars, just because there was so much I was missing, or I felt like I couldn't remember, and some characters that showed up that I couldn't remember if we met them in the first book. So there was a lot of me not remembering, and that is definitely a me problem. But I don't know if it's fully a 5-star. It did emotionally impact me, but it wasn't just as like shocking as the first one. I was blown away by the first one. But I did start book 3, and I guess I will update you tomorrow if I finish it, but I don't think I'll be able to finish it until the day after tomorrow. So I guess the next clip you will see how I feel about book 3, and I will finally be caught up with the series. All right, hello. So it is my birthday, which is why I'm wearing makeup for like the first time in a very, very long time. But I am here to update you that I have completed the Broken Earth trilogy. I finished the Stone Sky, and I'm sorry I can't look at you because I am clearly driving, but I am not going to be looking because it's not safe. Safe. But yeah, my final thoughts on book 3 were that I think I lost the plot somewhere, and I was kind of bored. So book 1 was amazing, incredible. I absolutely loved it. I was so emotionally invested in all those characters. I sobbed my way through the ending of book 1. Book 2, it had a lot of that same emotional impact on me. I still cried. There was one character, and some of the things that he said and some of the things that he did made me cry. At at work too. I think I already said that. But book 3 was just really tough to get through. I wasn't enjoying myself very, very much. I felt like we were still world building in book 3, and that's not necessarily a bad thing to have in books, but by the 3rd book, I just felt like we were still learning a ton of new information, and I was really struggling with that. So that was something that I wasn't having a good time with. I was just kind of bored. And then one of the point of views that we get, I was just so frustrated with her the entire time that I couldn't really sympathize. And it's not fair, and I don't want to give any spoilers for why it's not fair, because I know who she is and the reasons why she was making those decisions, but I'm still really struggling to empathize with some of her decisions, especially with what happened at the end and how everything ended and how another character's storyline was wrapped up. I just wasn't feeling it. I didn't feel emotionally impacted by the end of it, and I just was so confused in so many parts of it. There were just so many details that I had a hard time grasping. I couldn't visualize, and I did struggle with that in book 1, but it was tenfold in this book. I just really couldn't understand some of the stuff that was going on. I got the overall plot points, but I felt like the very, very ending, how everything went about, just was really lackluster in my opinion. I felt like it could have done so much more, and it could have been a lot more emotional than it was. So I'm kind of thinking 3 stars. I think I'm going to go home and read some reviews and see what other people say, and see if I just kind of missed things because I was reading it through audiobook and not reading along with it physically like I did the 1st book. So I might have missed a lot that way, but yeah, I'm a little disappointed with the ending. But I still think overall it's a really good series, and I still stand by, if you enjoyed the Mistborn first trilogy, then you will probably like these books. But I need to drive home. I need to be safe about this, so I'm going to end this here, and I will see you for the next series that I am going to try and catch up on. Good morning. I need to go finish getting ready for work, but I did want to check in and let you know that I'm going to be attempting to get through A Court of Silver Flames in the next couple of days. This is one of the series that I do feel the most confident in all the details that go on with it. I feel like I remember all of the characters, I remember all of the plot lines, and that's mostly just because book talk, bookstagram, you cannot get away from anything that has to do with ACOTAR. So I remember Feyre, I remember Rhysand, I remember Mar, is that her name? Oh my gosh, maybe I don't remember as much as I do. Cassian, Azriel, I remember them. And I believe this book is Nesta's book. And honestly, she became one of my favorite characters just because she was so unapologetically terrible that I kind of enjoyed her, because everyone else just thought that they were so much better than everybody else and more morally upstanding. But Nesta, she didn't give a crap that she was terrible. And I love that about her. Elaine is still my least favorite character. I do remember that. I remember thinking that she was just kind of not a great human. So I'm excited to see where this one goes. I do have a few spoilers for it, I believe, but I'm not going to say them here, so I kind of know a few things that go on in this one. Not a ton. I don't know if I'm ready to be back with Faye, but I do predict I'm going to like this one. I vlogged my process of reading the first 3 books in the ACOTAR series, and I had a lot of fun. I am not really hard to please when it comes to books, so I'm not surprised that I enjoyed the first 3, and I don't think I'll be surprised if I enjoy this one as well. But I guess I will check in with you when I hit the 50% mark, maybe at the end of the day today, or when I finish it, depending on what's first. But I am reading this on Hoopla, which is the first time using my library app option. That's the only one they had. They didn't have Libby, but I'm excited to be able to use that and not Scribd, because there is more speed options than Scribd has. But I'm super tired and I feel like I'm rambling, so like I said, I will check in with you when I hit the 50% mark. Okay, we are at the 50% mark of A Court of Silver Flames, and I'm enjoying it. I actually think I like this one the most so far. I think it has to do with it being in 3rd person point of view, and we're getting different characters' point of views. Like, we are getting Nesta's point of view and we're getting Cassian's point of view, and that just makes a world of difference for me. I really enjoy that. So I'm having a whole lot of fun reading this one, and like I said, Nesta is my favorite character just because she's so terrible, and I really enjoy just absolutely hating her. Like, it just feels so nice to have a character who is written so annoyingly that you are so frustrated with every choice that she makes, but also being in her point of view. Like, you totally understand where she's coming from because she's gone through a fuck ton of trauma, and it's not an excuse for the way she treats other people, but like, I get it. I'm annoyed with her and I'm frustrated with her, and I hate how she treats Cassian, especially at the very beginning, but I get it. So I'm having a really good time with this one. I don't know what the plot is. I don't think we have found a plot, but when we do find it, I think it's gonna be fun. Maybe. I don't know. I never really loved the whole cauldron situation, and I don't care about the plot of this book. I just care about the character relationships, and that's what I really like about this entire series. So, like, if the plot is garbage, I won't care. I won't care. If I never figure out what the plot is, I won't care about that either. I just really like these characters. I think that they are pretty well written for what these books are, and I'm having a whole lot of fun. So I will let you know my final thoughts tomorrow, hopefully when I'm not driving, because I have to keep the air conditioning on really low and it's way too hot to be doing that. So I will let you know how I feel at the end, but I'm predicting at least 4 stars. It could be 5 stars just based on the fact that I love Cassian. I am so tired. I really tried my best to finish this at work today, but there were so many distractions, so I still had about 2.5 hours left to listen after work today, and I procrastinated, and now it is almost 10:30 at night. That's a lie. It's almost 10 o'clock at night. But it feels very, very late. But overall, honestly, I really like this one. I think it's my favorite of the series, and there are definitely problems with it. Like, there is no overarching plot. There's really nothing that happens in this besides it's following Nesta's journey through like her grief and her self-hatred and her basically just being trained to be a warrior. That's about all that happens in it. There's just really not a lot that goes on until the very, very end. Then quite a bit goes on, but still there's no like major plot movement. But in the background there are a few things that the whole Night Court is trying to figure out and solve. So if you are a plot person, you won't like this, but if you're a character person like I am, you might really, really like this. And like I said, I really enjoy Nesta as a character. I love that she was just so unapologetically terrible in the first 3 books, and then in this one we kind of understood why she wasn't perfect by any means, but she really figured out all of the wrongs that she was doing, and she really worked on herself throughout this entire book, and I really like that. I just really enjoyed that. I'm saying the word really so many times, but this is a good one. I am glad that Nesta is one of my favorite characters. I still don't really like Elaine, and she really wasn't featured in this one at all. I figured she would be in here more, and we are definitely missing a scene with Nesta and Elaine kind of making up, because Nesta was totally herself at one point and said some very awful things. So missing that, but everything else, I had a good time. I'm excited to see where this goes. I really like the whole Valkyrie thing, and yeah, it's a good one. I'm thinking it's a 4-star. It's not really a 5-star. It didn't like emotionally touch me, but I still had a really good time. However, the audiobook, I do want to just throw in this tidbit. The narrator for this book, and I can't remember if she's the same one as the other books, but for this book, she was the same narrator as the From Blood and Ash series. And so I think I spent 6 days reading that series, listening to this woman's voice, and there are some words that I think I learned from reading because she pronounces them in a way that I got so confused. So this word, I say allied when I see it, but she says allied. This word, this is a me problem. When I read it, I always read bellied, which I know is not correct, but she says belied. This word right here, I say surveyed, and she says surveyed. What other words were that? Oh, this word right here, I read it as forbade, and she says forbade. And same with this, I would say bade, she says bad. And those words just stuck out to me so much. And I'm not sure if I absolutely love her voice or the character voices that she chose for a lot of these characters, especially Azrael. I really didn't like her Azrael. And I feel like Nesta and Cassian had Feyre and Rhysand's voices in this book. And I don't know if that was a narrator problem or if it was a writing style problem with Sarah J Maas. But those are some of my grievances with the audiobook. But this is a good one, in my opinion. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I finally got to it. She's a chunker, but another series we are caught up on. What's next? Alright, I am totally going to be late walking into work, but I need to update you on what I'm going to be reading. So I'm going to be reading the third, and I want to say the Montague sibling trilogy. So the very first book that I read when I finally got back into reading in 2020 was The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, and I absolutely loved it. It was everything that I wanted in a book. It was gay, it was male-male romance, it was childhood friends to lovers, it was historical romance, and I loved it. I ate it up in one sitting. I was obsessed. I then eventually read book 2 and I didn't love it as much, but I think that was because it followed Monty, the main character in book 1's sister, Felicity, and I just didn't enjoy her storyline very much. But I am now going to be on the third book. It again does not follow Monty anymore. It's following like their youngest sibling who they don't really know, and I am intrigued to see how this goes. I looked up reviews last night and it looked like people enjoyed it, so it seems like it's a pretty fun one, but I don't think I remember very much from what happened in book 2. I vaguely remember the major plot points in book 1 and book 2. Characters that were side characters, I don't remember their names. So I think this book is going to take me 2 days because it's about a 14-hour audiobook and it's a Monday. I think I have meetings and we just talk a lot, I would say, on Mondays, so I think that I won't be able to get a lot of listening done in the workday. So I think it'll take me 2 days. I don't really remember much, so I feel like this might be like a 3 to 4 star read, just based on not being able to remember all the details and not getting to have like my favorite characters from book 1. I also know that MacKenzi Lee is a bit of a problematic author, so I've been debating if I wanted to even include this book in it, but let's just say I don't recommend her works because of how terrible she is. I do, however, own this book and want to finish it just so I can have it off my shelves. So I guess I will check in after work, which I'm going to be late for. I have like 5 minutes to get into the building. Haha! Oh my gosh, it is so hot. But I have made it to well over halfway. I believe I only have about 2 hours left of the audiobook, so I'm going to listen to it on the way home, and then I think I'm going to attempt to finish it tonight so that I don't have to finish it in the morning and not be able to let you know my thoughts right away. So that is what I'm going to go ahead and do, but I will say so far that it is very readable. I have been really enjoying listening to it, and that's all I'm gonna say for now, because you will see me in literally 1 second for all of the rest of my thoughts. Hello, it is 10:45 at night. I have finally finished this book. I had to edit a video and upload it and make a thumbnail and everything because I forgot to do that over the weekend. Or more, I chose not to do it over the weekend and had to do it last minute. So it is now very late. It is bedtime. I need to go and get ready. So I'm going to quickly just summarize how I feel about this book and move on. And when I say quickly summarize, I mean I'll probably keep rambling forever. But overall, I did end up really enjoying this book, and I really do believe it's because I love Monty and Percy from book 1, and I really had that connection with those two characters, maybe because it was the first book that I read and it is nostalgic and reminds me of starting a booktube channel, and it could be it. But they're also just really sweet characters, and Adrian, who is our main character in this, was a very adorable character. I like instantly fell in love with him. He was just so precious and sweet, and he just kind of made you go, oh, I need to give you a hug. But in this book, we did get some Percy content, not a lot of it, not enough in my opinion, but Monty and Felicity were pretty heavily involved in this book, which was really nice to see. But there is, I guess, content trigger warnings for this book for our main character having anxiety, panic attacks, OCD tendencies, suicidal thoughts. He does self-harm quite frequently in the form of like skin picking, I don't know how to like call it when like he's like sticking his nails or his fingers into his hand and to the point that he makes himself bleed. He also struggles with not having an appetite when he's anxious, so he even references a few times that he starves himself when he's anxious. So those are some things that are brought up quite frequently throughout this book, so if that is triggering, I would definitely be warned on that also. And I will put up spoilers here because it could be a spoiler, even though I feel like it's something that should not be used as a spoiler. But anyway, in addition to his own suicidal thoughts and suicidal ideation, the mother of these characters does take her life by suicide, and as a reader you can figure that out pretty early on, I mean, but Adrian doesn't really figure it out or accept the truth of that matter until the very end. But it is something that does happen, and it seems to be something that Adrian is struggling with in his life, and at one point he kind of questions if, when he's in a very dangerous situation, if he does want to live or if he does want to succumb to death. So that is something else to really look out for if you do choose to pick up this book. But I did cry at some parts with Monty and Percy towards the end, just because I'm a sap and I love them. But I will say, like, everything with MacKenzi Lee and all of the things that she does has tampered with my enjoyment of it too. I wished that I wouldn't have liked it. I wish that it wouldn't have been a book that I cared about the characters in. I didn't love the plot, so if you are a plot person, like, this wasn't really solid in that. It was mostly about the characters' relationships and mental health struggles that Adrian is going through, so plot isn't a big one. But I'm still going to stick with, I don't recommend these books because of MacKenzi Lee. I enjoyed the characters. I wanted to finish the series out for nostalgia purposes and because I owned it, and I'm just a bit of a completionist, and it was going to like sit in the back of my brain and itch at my brain until I finally finished this book. But I don't believe she has ever issued an apology for the things that she has done. Yeah, I would say the series is cute, but it's not something you need to drop everything for. But I have finally caught up on another series, and I get to finally move on to something else. And I guess I'm gonna start that tomorrow, which is a couple days earlier than I expected to. So you will see me bright and early telling you all about what I'm reading next. This is what is next. Good morning. It is early. I have to leave my house in about 10 minutes and I still haven't packed my lunch, so I figured this is the best time to sit down and tell you what I'm reading today, which is Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World. The other Aristotle and Dante, Discover the Universe, whatever that one's called, I think was the second book that I read in 2020, so my memory is definitely very vague on the series and these characters. I also remember not loving that book. I think it was because I was comparing it to the other books that I was reading around that time, and it didn't stick out to me for some reason. Everyone else loves that first book, but I just never really did. I thought it was okay. I thought the characters were fine, the storyline was fine, but now I really just remember an old truck and a dead bird, I think, and then like the desert at one point. I don't know if they were together in the desert or if they were alone in the desert, but I remember like a scene in the desert. So I'm kind of predicting like 3 stars based on me not really remembering anything. So I hope that because there was a big gap between that first book and this book being written, that there's a lot of background information that reminds me. But I believe the audiobook is short enough that I can finish in one day, so I don't think I'll have a 50% mark check-in, but I will tell you how I feel at the end. Gotta go to work. Alright, you can have some dinner with me as I talk about this book. I didn't like it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't really like it. I'm sorry, for a book called Aristotle and Dante, there was a whole lot of Aristotle and not a lot of Dante in this. This book picks up immediately after the ending of Aristotle and Dante from what I can remember. I did not go back and read book 1 before I read this one, so I was definitely very lost. There was not a lot of, what is it called, when they re-articulate what happened in the first book and like ease you back into book 2. No, none of that happened. This picked up immediately after, and I just looked up Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe and when that was published, and that was published in 2012. And it makes sense, but this was written exactly the same way as I remember Aristotle and Dante book 1 being written. It is just very, 2012. It is very, and I don't mean this in like a condescending way, but it's very John Green-esque, where every character is pretentious and so thought-provoking and philosophical about every single aspect in their lives. And it just felt like every single chapter ended with, and Ari learned this, and he thinks that this is what that meaning of this is. And it was just over and over and over again, just him learning about life and learning about every facet and idiosyncrasy of life in general. And oh my god, it was so impossible to read. I wanted to put this down so many times. If it weren't for this video and the fact that Lin-Manuel Miranda was the narrator of this book, I don't think I would have been able to push through. It was insufferable. I'm sorry. It was heinous to read a book that was just spewing profound things, but nothing really happens. And this doesn't really have much to do with Aristotle and Dante. They were basically not together in any of this, and when they were always at each other's throats over something, or Dante was being very dramatic about something, and it took me back to being a teenager. So I do want to like put my teenage brain into this and say that she would have absolutely loved this. If she would have read Aristotle and Dante in high school, that senior year in 2012, when I was a senior, I would have fallen in love. And if this would have came out the next year, I would have been obsessed, like just thinking that I had all the knowledge and I was so smart. Like I feel like that is the type of person I was in high school. So I would have loved this. But me as a 28-year-old woman, I was struggling with it. One good thing that I did really love is the parents in this book. Both Aristotle and Dante's parents, I feel like they are just parents that I would strive to be if I ever had kids. I feel like they were open to their child's random thoughts and all of the things that they did and who they were as people. I just felt like these parents were written well, when a lot of YA writes parents as just god-awful people who don't care about their children's lives, are never there, and their kids are going off doing whatever the hell they want to all the time. And that's just not an experience I had as a child or as a teenager. So I never love seeing like negative representations of parents. Like every now and then I know that a book should have it because there are awful parents in the world, but it's nice to see when parents are good parents, because I had a really good mom growing up and I had a really good grandma who was also my like second parent. So I like seeing good parents in books. But man, oh man, oh man, this was hard to get through. This was just, I think it's a 3. I think it's a 3. And throughout this, I was trying to write down some notes in my phone so I could talk about stuff, but the only note that I wrote down was, is Dante a manic pixie dream girl? And I think the answer is yes. It's done. We can move on to the next book in this vlog, which is Good morning! So today our book is going to be How to Be a Movie Star. This is the second in like a duology, I believe it's a duology, by TJ Klune. The first one was How to Be a Normal Person. And this is the one that I know the absolute least about. I cannot tell you what those characters' names are. Part of me wants to say like Gus, for like Augustus, or like Gustavo or something, but I genuinely do not remember a single character's name. I don't remember the love interest. It could be like Colin, it could be Sam, it could be Bartholomew. I like don't know any of these characters' names. I vaguely remember there being a movie store, like a Blockbuster-esque movie store that our main character works at, and him being very antisocial, and the like dynamic between them was very Grumpy Sunshine. But other than that, I absolutely do not remember anything. And it wasn't my favorite TJ Klune. It was like very middle line, just average overall. So I don't think that this one's gonna be any better, especially because I don't remember the characters or what happened between them. But I do know that the audiobook is about 12 hours long, so I should be able to finish it today. And if not, I will just complete it tomorrow, or like when I get home from work, like I did with, what was it? Nobleman's Guide. Yeah. So that is what our what are doing today? What I am reading today. I almost forgot my headphones. I just had to run back inside before I left my house because that would have been tragic. I would have left work within 15 minutes to go find like a CVS to go buy some headphones, because absolutely not could I get through a day without some sort of entertainment. So that is on my schedule today, and this should be the last book that I'm reading for this vlog. I have a couple other books that are in a series that I cannot find the audiobooks for anywhere, and I'm not about to spend any more money on audiobooks this week at least. You know, next week is a different story, but for this vlog I'm not spending any more money on audiobooks, and it's not on my library app and it's not on Scribd. So I think this is gonna wrap up this vlog once we figure out how this book goes. But I am seeing a 3-star in my future, but we are gonna hope for the best, and I will check in with you when I'm done. When I'm halfway, we'll see. Okay, we did it. We finished How to Be a Movie Star, and I have thoughts. I definitely have thoughts on this. So this one was not about the same characters that were in book 1, How to Be a Normal Person. That one did follow a man named Gustavo. I was correct on that, and his love interest was a man named Casey. And in book 1, Gustavo was a bit of a loner. He owned a Blockbuster-like store, and he read encyclopedias for fun, and he wanted to be a normal person so that he could impress Casey and be a better boyfriend to Casey. But this one follows some side characters that I do not remember from book 1. I do not remember, oh, I already forgot his name, Josiah, who goes by Josie, and he lives in LA and wants to become a movie star, and he is Gus's best friend that he met through Casey from book 1. So no clue who he was from the start, but I did really enjoy his character. However, I am starting to notice after reading 20 or so TJ Klune books that TJ Klune kind of writes the same characters over and over and over again. And Josiah in this reminded me exactly of Nick from The Extraordinaries, who reminds me of Sam from the Tales from Verania series. And they are all this just like quirky, possibly has ADHD, confirmed in The Extraordinaries that Nick does have ADHD, but the other two like unsure, but always speaks like in a wild train of thought, can't be serious for more than like 5 seconds, and in their moments where they are pretty serious they end up ending it off with a joke. So it's a lot of the same characters coming up over and over again. And what I thought was interesting about this one was that it was written in 2019 and this one was written in 2020, so it's very possible that he was writing them around the same time and he wrote the same character. This one is just an adult who gets high all the time, and this one is a teenager who has ADHD as his diagnosis. So I just find it kind of interesting, and part of me is honestly getting a little bit bored with reading that same character. And like, don't get me wrong, I still love these characters and how they are written and how the struggles with their mind really play into who they are as a person. But it's not just the main character though too. We're getting side characters who are the same. A lot of these books have usually either a lesbian best friend type of character who is very aggressive and assertive and not one to mess with, or there's a drag queen character who is kind of snotty but also very wise and gives lots of advice. There's usually like a very grumpy character who doesn't want any sort of affection, who never wants to be hugged but also is like a secret softie, like the prince in Tales from Verania, and maybe I would say Jazz in this one, where she's definitely a softie but she like has a harder exterior. So a lot of these characters are coming up again and again and again, and I feel like at this point I'm just like reading the same book, just set in different worlds, and the characters have slightly different names. So that's something that I was really struggling with because I just want something different. And especially with these main characters who are always just being goofy, never really being serious, there's never really a moment in the book where they take off their mask. And I know that like sometimes people are a little bit more silly and don't want to take things serious, but I feel like there comes a point in a book especially where a character kind of has to grow up just a little bit and really be serious. And every time that it feels like we get that with these characters, they just take it all back by joking immediately after. They can't be serious for too long of a time before they put that mask back on and jump back into the character that they are. So that's something I did struggle with it. Overall though, the plot, I think I liked it better than book one. So in this one we follow Josiah, who wants to be a movie star, and he just wants to be an actor. That's all he wants to be, and he gets high all the time, he's really silly, and he finally gets this like big break where he gets to audition for a movie because a producer of the movie requested him directly, and the producer of the movie ends up being the grandfather of a man that Josiah had just met at a book reading. Is that what you call them? So the man that Josiah had met, his name is Quincy, and he writes Monster Porn, and he was reading a chapter from his book, and Josiah thought he was the best and coolest person ever and wanted to be his friend, and Quincy ends up asking Josiah out on a date, but because Josiah is demisexual, he turns him down during that. And so when Josiah goes to this audition later, he finds out that Quincy is actually the writer of the script, and so they kind of have to be back in each other's lives, and there's nothing really dramatic about it, which I love. The characters get along really well, which I also love, and they were very sweet characters. But again, comes back to, you're just reading Nick and Seth as adults. And what I struggled with as well is that I have listened to the audiobook of The Extraordinaries, and this is read by the exact same narrator, and he used the exact same voice for Nick as he does for Josie, and he uses the same voice for Seth as he does for Quincy. So I was just reading the same characters in a different setting, and these ones are adults who get high, and these are children who have superheroes in their life. So did I like it? I think so, but I'm almost bored with TJ Klune, and that just doesn't sound like me. But it was the same story. I've read these characters before. I didn't get anything new from it, so I did it. I caught up on all the series that I was planning for this video. Let's roll the end clips. Thank you so much for making it this far in the video. If you have, please leave me a boat emoji so I know that you have been watching, as well as leave me a comment that lets me know if you would like to see a little bit more day in the life sort of videos. I am trying to incorporate some stuff into the vlogs, in future vlogs that I'm filming right now, but I'm a little camera shy, so I don't know what to include. Do you want to see like the food I'm eating or places I go, which isn't very often? Like, I don't know, give me anything that you would like to see in these vlogs, and I will try and incorporate them into them so that they can be more interesting and watchable. But I also have my Instagram as well as my Discord in the description if you would like to chat with me more about books. Instagram, I'm on every single day. Discord, I'm also on every single day. It is where we host the fanfiction readathon as well as the Story Continue book club, but you do not need to be included in those. If you want to join just for fun, you can chat with us over there about anything that's not even book related. But those are in the description if you'd like to check those out. And I think that is all that I have to say. So I will see you in my next video, which should be out very, very, very shortly. All right, thank you so much for watching. Bye.